Hi guys, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. We're still very much doing the first segment of what I told you guys about last time, which is kind of like unpacking the life stories of inspirational youth from in and around Limpopo. So today's episode is going to be super fun because I'm going to be doing it based on the life story of somebody who I'm exceptionally close with. He's a friend, sort of like a brother as well. He's incredibly funny, and I swear you guys are gonna get such a crazy laugh from some of the stories that he shared with me pertaining to his past. Now, before we get down to it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course leave a comment detailing how we can make the show 10 times better than what it already is. Like I said the last time, my name is Saulo Ronald Bangani, aka Ranzi M, and this is the life story of Gift Gtee Malulek. So let's check it out. So though both his parents are originally from Zim, they settled in South Africa in a village called Minga years back, and that's where he was born, and he lived out and is still pretty much living out most of his life. Now he has two parents and one sibling. Now, of his two parents, his mom is a tailor maker. She makes dresses and other kind of cool fashion designs. Unfortunately, and this is pretty sad for me to say because, you know, it's very early on in the story, but already know there's a little bit of sadness that is coming through. His father unfortunately passed away in 2003, months into his mom's pregnancy. And so he passed away in November, and in the 18th, or rather the 18th of July, his sibling was born. So it was like a double-edged sword. It was like a really sad time period, as I can imagine, which was kind of like consolidated by the fact that, you know, she had this bouncing baby boy. You know, the really sad part for me is the fact that his sibling never really got to meet his dad. When I asked him about the experience of his father's passing, he did tell me that he was still pretty young and didn't remember much, but he had really cool and fun memories of how, you know, his mom would speak of his dad, and obviously his younger sibling also sees pictures. I just remember laughing at some of the crazy stories that he's actually or had told me about very early on in his life. Gtee attended Rangani Primary School, and what they would do, so not like a really crazy distance, but it was like a bit far. So they would have to walk religiously to and from school. And so as young as they were, they used to calculate the distance of the walk to school. And I guess them being young, you know, fooling around, they were like, you know what, we're not gonna walk this far just to go to school. So him and his best friends, at the time they're like in grade R, they used to sit in a field for like 3 days, very early on as the year was about to start. And what they would do is that they would sit there, they would eat their lunches, like they would decide whose lunch they're eating first, followed by whose lunch, and they would play games, and then they would wait there in the field until they saw other children returning on their way back from school, and then they would join the road and act as though, you know, they were from school, knowing very well that they were sitting in a field the whole day. Unfortunately, that ended in a haste because one day his mom found them in a field, and the Lord, he says he got the beating of his life. So he then went to another school because his mom was like, you know what, this is not working. We need to find Gift a different school because he's just being rebellious, and so we need a change of environment. So his mom ends up moving him to Saselamani Combined Primary School, He told me another crazy story about how on the first day, he got there and obviously was like, still inexperienced. He didn't know what was going on. And at that time, he admitted, this is no shade, guys, but he literally said, I had not really at that time mastered the English language. And this is like a school that was like full of Nigerian learners. And so the preferred medium of communication was English, and there I am from the village going up on about how, I don't know how to speak English properly. So he would just kind of like try and figure out what they were saying. But he then, this is crazy, ended up stumbling in a class where there were grade 2 learners as opposed to grade 1 learners. Luckily for him, the teacher kind of spotted that this kid is like confused and he can't be in grade 2. So they took him to his grade 1 class, and the teacher was like, yeah, we've actually been waiting for this learner, and so thank you for bringing him. And that's kind of like when he settled into his grade 1 class. Now, as he settled into the environment, things were becoming like better, peachy. He was making friends, and so in grade 7, that's kind of like when his eyes became opened. That's when he started to be creative. And I always say, in order to be creative, you have to first create. So that's when he started drawing cartoons, first in his family to go, under the creative stream. No musicians, no nothing. He's kind of like the first one to kind of like delve out and branch out and do all of these crazy creative things that he's actually done. As a direct quote during the interview, he said, "I'm the first to do a lot in my family." And I think kudos to him, because it's so heartwarming to know that you were actually the first person in your family to do something that was like inspirational and had never been done. So like very early on in his life, he told me a story about how there was a guy who had a phone. It was a Nokia. Even though I can't really recall which Nokia it was, but they would make videos and start, kind of making people disappear, editing things. And so that's kind of like where the start was. The start of him loving videos and editing and all of that amazing and cool stuff that he's done. He also told me that in Bible study class, his teacher would ask him to draw images, right? And so that's just pretty much his fondest memories of his experience in middle school or primary school, rather. Now, fast forward to his grade 8 year. He went to Basopa High School. Shepherd Maluleke, who at the time was a very good friend of his, who was repeating, grade 8. At the time, he told me that they had to move, so he was no longer at Minga, but now he was at Mapope, which is a village that is not pretty much far, but it's a distance off. And he moved and he made new friends, and his friend at the time was Shepherd Maluleke, who was repeating. And he told me that just having him around was like super convenient, because he knew about the tests, he knew what they would be writing about. And so on a few occasions, Shepherd would actually just pretty much take an old exam paper and forge it into that year's curriculum, and the teacher would pretty much be marking the same paper again without even knowing. So that was just one of the fondest memories that he had. He matriculated at Jean Chabani High School after he had to move, which was in Shinkundu, after which he went to Shingwezi College, and that was when he had to move after his matric year to Malamlele. And that kind of also feeds into how we are now, at that point we're in the same environment, but we had not crossed paths. So after he moved to Malamlele, he became pretty famous for doing these skits or videos. Pretty much early on, before it was like a huge sensation on TikTok. He used to make videos mimicking famous people, kind of like things that they would be doing that he would consider funny and etc. So on this particular day, he's at Malamlele at a shop called Stop and Print, and he's printing out a t-shirt, and he meets a guy by the name Mgtee, and Mgtee basically says to him, hey, I've seen your videos, you're a funny guy, I'm a videographer, and so we should pretty much link up and see if we can like do something together. And that is actually how at that time Gtee ended up joining MCTV, Malamlele Community TV, and that is actually where I also met Gtee, and yeah, we started to work together on a few projects very early on at MCTV. Yeah, and that's pretty much how he also learned how to edit and to use softwares in order to enhance, the videos that he was making, and etc. and etc. Now, while he's still pretty much at school working on his academics, he is still learning about music videos and how to edit them, still working on his brand, still making videos, still just kind of doing, a lot to kind of enhance his craft and just being an overall amazing person. Now, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really, really hope that you guys enjoyed all of the content from the last episode to this one. Please don't forget to check us again next week. I should be uploading another one from like on a weekly basis. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and check us out on Facebook. I am at Napoleon Ronzi M Mangani, and that over there, this guy over here actually is Gift Gtee Maluleke. Don't forget to also check out Creative Brand. They've got really, really nice drip, like I said the last time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Toodles. Mwah.